This is Adam from Lorna Shore, and you are listening to Shutter 16 Magazine.
Cool. So a lot's been happening with the band the last few weeks. So why don't we start with Will? Because you announced that he's officially the new vocalist, and I know that he filled in as the touring vocalist in early 2020 when you guys were in Europe. So how did he kind of first come into the fold?
Okay, so I guess, so how he kind of came into the fold is that when we were looking for a fill-in vocalist for Europe, we were just kind of reaching out to a bunch of people, mine specifically, but I remember I came across his YouTube video. He had a bunch of covers, and I saw one for a song, and I was like, oh, this is actually like really good. And I remember, and I called my drummer Austin, and we were like talking about, because we had a couple people that we were sorting through, and he was like, yeah, actually, like someone actually mentioned Will to me. Like, oh, cool. You know what? Like, I just saw his cover. He actually sounds really cool. Like, why don't you just send him the instrumental, because the more people we have covering it and trying it out, like the better, so we have more like insurance and safety.
Sure.
Just in case this person doesn't work out, and then we have another person lined up, so we're not just putting all our eggs in one basket. And then so we were obviously during the period of time we're talking to a bunch of people, and he actually like sent us back the covers of 2 songs like within like a couple of days, and he like nailed it. And I was like, you know what, like out of everyone that's been sending us stuff, if we have to go perform tomorrow, which I mean kind of we do in like a month and a half, like he's the closest to being able to perform like as spot on as possible. So I was like, you know what, let's give him a shot. Also, it helps the fact that he lives in New Jersey, so we can have more practice, because everyone else we were talking to was like all over the country, so it would be a lot harder to get like practice. So he lives in New Jersey, so we can get more practice in and everything else like that. So that's kind of how it happened. The short of it basically is he was I think just the most ready available to go on tour, and also he just geographically lived closer to us, so we were able to have like 6 practices in with him before we even went to Europe, so we were like super prepared. And then for me, I didn't want to put him in the band just yet, because I was like, I just want to, there's like 2 important things for me. It's like, how are you going to be on the road? How are you going to be in the studio? So
sure.
Obviously and on the road, he was really great. He got along with everyone. He helped, he sat at merch. He was talking to fans. He was fun to be around on tour. Like, he also handled the whole like situation of us flying home like pretty well, like, comparable to like I say like myself, because I was like having a panic attack, and he was kind of like being okay with it, as best as he could be. So I think it was nice to be on tour with someone like that, as opposed to like him, not really, he just kind of put himself involved really early on. So it was really nice to have that. So I was like, cool. He's really, really good on tour. I like being around him, like spending time with him. I was like, but I don't really know how he's going to be in the studio. Like, clearly he can cover the material, but like my question is like, how would it be if we gave you a song and you would write lyrics and patterns and vocals? Like, how would it be? How would you do it? So, so that's kind of why we were very hesitant. And also, like, during the pandemic last year, it didn't really make any sense to release information. And it's like, if we would have posted that we have new vocalists, like nothing would have changed. It was like people would have forgot about it. We would have no music. It would have been like just kind of like it would have been nothing. So we were like, let's make sure we come back in the right way possible. So kind of had the idea to go into the studio to do some songs, and that would be like his like kind of last test, and then he went in and did a great job. So that's why he's here with us now.
Awesome. So that's the other big news, that you've got the new EP out, which is going to release here in the States August 13th. So, and I Return to Nothingness. So I want to ask about the title, because it's kind of for me, it kind of hits in a lot of different ways, and it's got a lot of different meanings that you could interpret from it. So is there a special significance to the title on the EP?
Kind of came up with the title tracks and the whole naming of the album. So we're trying to figure it out, and like we were kind of going a bunch of down different routes. And what I want to do something special and unique to the 3 songs, because I've always seen bands in the past where they have song titles that like it kind of tells a story, like they all kind of like play off each other and tells like a sentence or a fragment. But I'm like, we can't really name, we only have 3 songs, so we can't like, I've seen bands have a 10-song album, and you can have a long quote or a long phrase with each song title, but we only have 3, so we can't really have a quote that's just like three words long. So I was like, how can we? What's a 3-line thing that we can do? And I was like, oh right, haiku is a 3. It's a form of a poem with this, which like it's 3 lines. And then I was looking into it, and I was like, okay, how do you make a haiku? And I'm like, all right, we already have 3 lines, so we can use 3 song titles as 3 lines. But then it was all about the form. It was like it's 5 syllable, 7 syllable, 5 syllable. And I was like, okay, but like So I was like, okay, realistically, at the end of the day, it's like a 17-syllable, 3-line poem, right? So then I was like kind of bouncing around with a bunch of stuff, and I was like, okay, how can I come up with this stuff? And so that was the first. So I was like trying to like fill a thing, and then for the last song, which is because the concept lyrically is about death, afterlife, rebirth. So when I was like, okay, the last song was about rebirth and like how we felt. I mean, how I felt as someone who struggles with mental stuff and mental illness and depression and all this stuff like that. Like, especially last year, it felt like my life was worthless. So it's just like rebirth felt like I'm just returning to nothingness. So I'm just kind of reborn into what life is, which is basically nothing and meaningless as we are, especially last year, especially after last year. I felt, as a musician, you're non-essential. You don't really matter. What you do is basically worthless in the grand scheme of what people have deemed to being essential and non-essential. So you're just pretty much worthless. So it just felt like to me like the reincarnation to die, to go to the afterlife and come back. It's just like, oh, now I'm coming back to this meaningless existence, right? And kind of that's where it all kind of came from. And then I was just trying to like fill the amount of syllables, and I was just like, you know what, like I was like messing with like nothingness, and I was like, that's kind of somewhat the lyrical themes and some of the lyrics in it, and it kind of really and then I also got it from. So the lyrics in the song "I Never Return to Nothing" is "ash to ash and dust to dust," which is I think a Bible thing, and there's more to it, and it was more to it where it's like, and then nothingness I return. So I was like, okay, let me just play off of that, and then I was like, and I return to nothingness. So I kind of was playing off of the lyrics in the chorus that built the whole thing around it. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully I didn't ramble on too long.
It makes perfect sense. It ties it all together.
Right, hopefully I didn't confuse you.
No, not at all. Not at all. It makes sense.
Yeah, it kind of came from like me trying to make something special out of the 3 songs. Statement. So the statement is, to the hellfire of the abyss and I return to nothingness, which is a quote basically. If you think about it, it's like kind of not just like 3 random song titles. They kind of work with each other based off of the lyrical themes. And where "and I return to nothingness" came from was based off of the "ash to ash, dust to dust" like Bible quote, and within that is and to nothingness I return, or something like that. And I was like, oh, let me mess with that, and that's kind of where it all kind of came about.
Cool, very cool. So it's almost like a concept EP in a lot of ways.
Oh, it's very much is a concept EP. Like we knew that we were like it's very cyclical, and they work with each other.
Awesome. Now, being that Will was new to the band, was he involved in the writing of the lyrics, and how did the whole writing of the EP kind of come together and work for you guys as a band?
So he's definitely so when it comes to being a vocalist in our band, it's like, I want you to write the lyrics.
Okay.
That's kind of your job as a vocalist. I mean, obviously we as a band, we want to have say and like give opinions and stuff like that. But like the bulk of the heavy writing comes lyrically from the vocalist. So he was just writing a bunch of songs, and he was just like, we kind of didn't really give him any direction, because like for me, it's just like, I want to see what you would do. And then if you get off the rails, and it's like, let me come in and like kind of like guide you a little bit. But I was like, let me just see what your priorities are as an artist. Like, let me just see what you want to talk about. And what he was like talking about, I was like, actually, I kind of agree with it, because during quarantine, I was kind of like, I never really wrote lyrics, but I was like, let me just try writing some stuff. It was kind of therapeutic, and I was like sending him some stuff, and not that we used anything, but I was like, here's just like what's going on in my head. And maybe that inspired him in some sort of way, but like he kind of came up with the concept himself. He was kind of like, Lorna Shore has this sort of like existential, like transcendental kind of like sort of vibe to it, so let's talk about something that's like that. And he kind of came up with the lyrics, and when it comes to writing for the band, it starts with me, and I write a lot of the material, and then I come to Austin and Andrew, and we kind of put the songs together. Then that's usually how it goes. But with lyrics, I felt kind of good, because I have part in it, whether lines or not, a lot of hand in like choices of words or deciding. That's cool, because he wrote so much lyrics, he had so many songs and so many ideas, and I was like, let's do this, like that sounds cool, like let's choose this word, let's use this word instead. So even though I didn't like come up with the lyrics, the fact that I had like a little bit of a say in how the lyrics came about, that was enough for me to feel like excited. But I would say the bulk, the heavy lifting of it came from him, and then myself and Josh being our producer, kind of helped him in a way, with the lyrics and whatnot. But it was mostly all from him.
Nice. Now, I wanted to comment on the vinyl that you guys were releasing too, because that's the era when I'm brought up. You went out and you got a rock or a metal album, and it was vinyl. There was nothing else. And there's some pretty cool artwork that you've brought into it. And for me, that was an important part of the whole concept of the album and the whole package. You know, I'm thinking back to, like, say, a Sabbath album cover, or, you know, Iron Maiden in the 80s, where they had, you know, these concepts each, and it was a journey to listen to the music as well. So is there a certain theme that you were trying to go with the album artwork, or, you know, who makes the decisions on that, and how did that kind of come about for this? Because I saw that the red vinyl's already, you know, long been sold out, so super cool, and I think a lot of people are returning to, you know, vinyl nowadays.
Yeah, so to me, so for the artwork, I've been following this Polish artist, Mariusz Lewandowski. I'm probably butchering his name, but I've been following him for a while because I was I saw a band and they had art, and I was like, I just like, who did your art? And he was like, oh, this painter. And from that point in time, I was following him since like 2019, and I was just like, all throughout last year, I was like, man, his art's really cool. And I was starting that, I was thinking he was doing art for like bands. So when we got home from the EP, I was like, well, let's start thinking about art. That's because I figured out sometimes that takes a long period of time, and we were trying to do something different, because a lot of times in the past we just do like symbols, or we do like just kind of a very simple basic artwork. And I was like, I want to do something different this time around. So like, I was like, what if we do like a painting or a photography, or like a photograph or something like that, just like different than like kind of some illustrated like Photoshop thing. So I remember I was like, I really like this artist, and we got in contact with him, and you know, he had a bunch of art that we can commission off of him. Like, we can just be like, hey, can we use this to, you know, for our artwork? So that's kind of what we did. It's not like he drew it up specifically for us, because we couldn't afford him to do a one-of-one for us, but he had a bunch of art that wasn't being used by other bands, and that's kind of what other bands in the past have done with him. And we were just going through his catalog, and I was like, man, this like is perfect. Like, it's blue, it's red, it's like very vibrant colors. It looks different than anything you'd see in our genre. I was like, also ties into like the lyrical theme, because like the first song was about To the Hellfire, and we mentioned like Ezreal, which is the angel of death, and which the angel of death, Ezreal is kind of also represented physically as the Grim Reaper, and like the cover is sort of Grim Reaper looking thing. So just kind of like tied in everything. When we saw it, I was like, this is definitely it. Because we saw a bunch of other ones that looked really cool, but I was like, this to me, like, it spoke to me. And then we all had it saved on our phone even before, like, it was a background on my phone even before we even like bought the artwork. I was like, I just love this piece of art anyway. So yeah, once we were able to get to use the art, it was a done deal from there. But we wanted to do something that's like iconic, and that could be like more seen as art rather than like a band's artwork, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So we wanted something to be more art than like, okay, this is just what the artwork looks like for Lorna Shore, but more so like can be appreciated in and of itself just as art.
Awesome. I love it. I I really do. It's fantastic to see that you went the extra mile on that, because it makes the EP just, you know, the whole package something special. Now, I see you've got some live shows coming up in August for the EP release. So do you think that you're going to be adding dates to that, or do you anticipate some touring plans maybe in the fall and winter? Anything in motion yet?
So basically, we're just doing these headline shows around the support of our EP, and then we were considering doing some headline shows, but we're going back into the studio to do our full length this fall. So we're just trying to focus on that.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think, I mean, as much as I want to go out and play shows, I know we're going to be playing shows next year, but I think it's like we're going to the studio in November. So I know that I'm not sure if I'm at the liberty to tell it, but I'm just saying it anyway. Who cares? So I just know that we're right now just preparing to go into the studio to do a full length and have that horizon of what I want to do. As much as I want to play shows and get out there, I feel like one's gonna be going out in the fall. I need to live to go see shows. There's a ton of bands going out, and I'm like, it's gonna be so saturated, and like right now it's important that we focus on like maintaining the momentum and doing a new record. So I think that's where right LP number 4 and go in the studio and record it in November.
Awesome. Yeah, it makes sense, because every day there's just a million tour announcements, it seems. So you're right, and people just can't, it's not possible to go to every show that you would like to go to. So yeah, well, we'll look forward to the full length. I am psyched about the EP release. I love To the Hellfire and the video, and it's just a great, like you said, it's a whole concept EP, and it's a great package deal, and I can't wait to see what you guys do with the album. Now, looking forward, where do you see the future for Lorna Shore?
That's a hard question. I don't never even know where to future of Lorna Shore. But what we kind of want to do is just kind of continually what we always do is just organically be ourselves and just write whatever music comes to us. I personally don't believe you can use logic and creativity. So I think, especially when you're trying to express yourself,
Sure.
like trying to think of logical moves to be like, this is the best move for the band. It's just the best move for the band is just being yourself. And I think all we're gonna do musically is try to be ourselves. And if people latch onto it, that's awesome. But I think we just want to keep pushing the limits, pushing the boundaries, pushing everything that we've done, and just try to put ourselves as much as we can on every record, and just leave ourselves behind. With a physical copy of a record. So that's kind of what my mentality is as an artist is like, you just have a discography of our lives, because we put so much of our emotional experience, our personalities in our music. So that's just kind of all we want to do is just express ourselves. That's what art is to us still. It's still an art form and still a platform to express ourselves. That's all we're kind of really doing. If people latch onto it, that's awesome. But that's kind of really all I see ourselves doing, and try to see how far we can honestly push this thing and see how extreme we can make it, and that's kind of where my head's at. It's very much just in the sort of like artistic expression rather than like we want to be the biggest band possible, because it's like you can't really guarantee that, and you don't know how it's going to work. So instead of worrying about controlling things that are incontrollable, the only thing you can control is yourself. So focus on that, and just like, I'll write the music that we want to write, and if that's what we did with this EP, and the song Hellfire took off. It's not like we use logic and reasoning to write a song like that. It was very much just like we did the song we wanted to do, and it seems to be resonating with people. And I think whether people want to admit it or not, people latch on to people can sense when someone's being not themselves, and when people can also sense when someone's being authentically themselves. And I think that's something that gets overlooked a lot, and it's more about what is the right business move, and I think that kind of stamps on creativity and expression. So for us, it's just more so being ourselves and writing whatever music comes to mind, and hopefully being able to take it as long as we possibly can take it.
Awesome. I mean, that's a great attitude, and it's very true. It's very true. And some of the best music out there over the years hasn't been the most commercially successful, although I hope that you guys definitely do well in that respect as well. But it's all about the music, and it's the art. And so if you're doing what you love to do, and if there's people out there who love it and enjoy it, then that's all the more better for you guys. But you know what? I think they will.
Exactly. That's all. I mean, it seems to work so far. Every record we still believe in that brand and that value, and every record we seem to get bigger and bigger, and we still have the same value, which is personal expression. So the songs that we latch onto, people also latch onto, so it's not ironic, and that's just kind of the route we want to take. And I think we're still trying to find ourselves as all human beings are. So and you have little timestamps in our lives of when we're finding ourselves and what we're finding in our lives. So it's created in the music. So I don't know. That's just kind of where my head's at. I'm not really too focused on like the financial success, because when I get obsessed with that, it doesn't really seem to work for us. And when I don't think about it, I get better opportunities, and the band grows and everything else like that. So I just focus on kind of what you can focus on, and it seems to be productive to think about writing the best music that we can write, and just focus and worry about that, and everything else will fall into place.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. We appreciate it, and fill us in on everything that's going on with the band.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate having a platform and an opportunity to talk about the band. So.